Hello, welcome to Matters of Decorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I am having the worst day trying to get this recording done. I just realized I've recorded over an hour of video with my microphone turned off. I've had like 16 different starts trying to put into words this socially uncomfortable set of concepts and bits of my personal history that, come to think about it, I really just don't feel like talking about. Maybe later, maybe later, I will talk about my personal relationships with villainy and social mores and writing these in games and stories. But you know what? I'm going to talk about cooking today. A little bit about when I was sick last year and what it did to my relationship with food and what it's doing to my relationship with food now. I like the glasses. I can see just fine while I'm doing the recordings, but there's a lot of glare off of them. So I think I will dispense with them while I am, for now, until I work a way around that. I spent a good amount of time unable to swallow. Uh, Latest PET scans came back a couple of weeks ago. No cancer in my body, so I am really, actually very happy with the results of my therapies. My therapies were radical, and um, they're a lasting effect. But while I was undergoing them, and for some time after, uh, my throat didn't work. They were shooting radioactive lasers through it 5 days a week for 7 weeks, and it had an effect. That effect being third-degree sunburn down my throat. I was on a lot of painkillers at this time. Uh, I was on more fentanyl than anyone had seen at the palliative care clinic. And when the fentanyl wasn't enough, I had liquid oxycodone that I could take to get the rest of the edge off. Cancer hurts, the treatment hurts, pain. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't swallow water. Uh, Air went down, and that was about it. I could wet my mouth, but I couldn't drink. So I had the G tube installed so that I could get nutrients and liquids into my body without having to pour them down my throat. That came out a year ago exactly, as of last Wednesday. So kind of a celebration. I love food. I've always loved food. I My mind is ordered along the lines of food. I can remember most of my family trips with my mom and dad by where we ate when we left. I know a few things about Thomas Jefferson's home, Monticello. I certainly remember that he's the person who introduced ice cream to the colonies. And oh man, there was this barbecue place about 45 minutes away from there that had these ribs, St. Louis style, so they had the actual little bit of meat. Yeah, that's how my brain works. As the radiation treatments began to progress, I had a few problems with food. These aren't mine. I have all my teeth removed because the radiation treatments would make it impossible for me to ever have any dentistry again. My gums just, they'll never heal if anything is done to them. So considering the fact that I hadn't been taking great care of my teeth before then and was looking at having dentures eventually, yeah, it had to happen all at once before I could have the radiation. Not fun. Uh, and as I was adapting to having soft foods, the radiation started, and taste buds started to go offline in a fairly serious fashion. I lost my ability to taste sweet. I couldn't taste liverwurst after a couple of weeks, and then I couldn't swallow. I lost food. losing food was losing a part of my mind, a part of my soul. There was something that I just could not engage in, not physically anymore. And it was one of the harder parts. I couldn't drink either. I used to have long, drawn out fantasies about what it would be like to just grab a pitcher of ice water and chug. Food was a problem. I was big when I had the G-tube installed, when everything started up. I'd lost a bit of weight by the time they needed to install the G-tube. 330 pounds at the time. You can see it in some of my older videos. I even talked about a bit of my rotundity at the time. And this brain genius of a nutritionist who showed up while I was recovering from having the G-tube installed, who was responsible for giving me the prescription for the nutrient that I would be having in lieu of food, could not get over how huge I had been. I've never seen anyone this heavy get a G-tube before. Thank you, sir. That helps. He needs 3,000 calories a day. He's going to need to drink 24 or 30 of these, 30 or 40 of these boxes of nutrients every single day. No one has time for that. I got a shipment of little juice box size containers that had my diabetic friendly nutrient, vanilla flavored, thank goodness. I couldn't swallow, so you'd think it didn't matter. It mattered. I could taste it. And I had to pour it into a funnel to eat one, but 30 of those a day, I couldn't process liquid like that. I had things to do besides pee. So, most of which was lying around on the couch watching YouTube. I didn't have 30 or 40 a day. I had 4, sometimes 6 when I was feeling really, really up to it. There were days I forgot, and there were days I had a couple. If I didn't have my personal assistant, I may have mentioned this before, but if I didn't have Devin coming over every day and making sure that I was taking my medications and feeding myself or helping me eat, I wouldn't be able to make these videos today. I wouldn't be here. I was 220 some odd pounds at the end of my treatment when I could start to, when I had the G-tube removed. Started to eat again, gotten the ability to swallow again. Taste hadn't come back, but I was working on it. Swallowing is rough when they remove a chunk of your throat from the inside with radioactive lasers, so that took some effort, but while I was in the middle of these treatments, I couldn't eat, I couldn't taste. I couldn't even put something in my mouth to get a taste of it because the taste buds didn't work. But I had YouTube, and there's a lot of, I watched a lot of food stuff on YouTube. I looked around so I could at least get a vicarious sense of it. A sense of that would have tasted great. I'd been a big fan of Epic Mealtime before. I will always be a big fan of Epic Mealtime. There were people tasting MREs. Ashens kind of got me started on that when he was eating old MREs and things that were 10, 15 years old. It was kind of horrible, and it all looked so good to me, actually. And then I found a channel I wouldn't talk about for a minute. James Townsend and Sons. I may actually put a link in the description. In fact, I'm going to put a link in the description. James Townsend & Sons is a company on the East Coast that does revolutionary era historic recreation, including culinary recreation. they put videos up of them preparing meals that would have been available in colonial or revolutionary era times. Using as close to the original ingredients as they could get. The company produces the cookware that they used, and they use cook fires and earthen ovens and what was available then. And if you folks from James Townsend Sons are watching, thank you. You also helped save my life. They made the cooking so attractive, so visceral, such an experience. It wasn't just something that they did with their mouths. It wasn't just a matter of taste. It was kinesthetic. They cooked with their hands. They made fire. And it wasn't all stuff that looked all that awesome to eat. They made hardtack and potash cakes and things that soldiers of the era would have been able to eat, even if it was, off salt pork or what they could scrounge from a field. These were really educational videos, gave you a sense of what people in the era had to deal with or could deal with. And I looked around and got into other medieval and Renaissance cook shows and watched some of that. But I always come back to James Townsend. I've got their catalog. Devin, but got their catalog, and we are going to be ordering some cookware when my financial situation improves. Patreon. My birthday last year. Now this year, one of those years, time is bendable and malleable when you've gotten off of fentanyl. I got a Dutch oven. Devin went to a military supply store and got a tripod for cooking over a fire with things like a Dutch oven. And that had been my dream, to just make something like they would make it on James Townsend. No stove, no oven, make a fire, put ingredients in a hot pot, stir it, let the heat do its work, and the magic of the Dutch oven and the conductance of the metal. Nothing fancy, nothing out of the can. Well, a little something out of the can. Images of doing that drove me and saved me. I was able to focus on what it would be like. I'd walk through it in my mind step by step. There was a lot of mental game involved during that during therapy and during the recovery from the therapy. A lot of focus and a lot of guided imagery, even if I was guiding myself for the most part, which was good because I could do jack all physically. Chemotherapy makes you tired, radiation makes you tired, fentanyl makes you tired. One of the things Devin had to do almost constantly was make sure I was still breathing, because you get that tired. You get so tired that the next breath is just more work than you want to do. One of the reasons I'm bringing this up now is because Wednesday, 2 days ago, I get together with a group of my friends. We call ourselves the Warriors of Wednesday because we're geeks like that. It's usually a role-playing night. Sometimes we'll take a week off and do Cards Against Humanity or watch a movie or something. My son's involved in this group, which makes me extremely happy. This is the group that the Barrington stories come from, and a lot of the current Gelt stories come from. Some of the guys that I would take a bullet for in a stone cold second. Wednesday night, we did a beef stew. I'll walk you through the process. Built a fire I love building fires. I'm a big fan of making a fire correctly. Spent a while practicing. I don't know if I could start a fire without a match. I don't know if I can, do the fire bow, or even flint napping, or using a flint to get it going. But I can get a fire built to the point where you can use one flick of a lighter or one match, and it's going to catch and it's going to go. That was a lot of fun. I enjoy building me a good fire. Built it a little bit too good. It was super hot and super big, and well, okay, it was 2 foot square, but the whole fire pit in Devin's backyard was ablaze and super hot. And we put up the tripod and put some water in the Dutch oven after the fire had burned down to coals for the most part. And Dutch oven wasn't hanging right. We could tell because of the water level in it. I wanted to see how fast it would boil off because the fire was super hot. And it took a while, but the tripod wasn't going to work. Good Dutch oven has little legs on the bottom as part of the structure, so we just set the pot right there on the coals. Andrew, as my sous chef, cut up a package of bacon. We threw bacon into it. It sizzled, burned just a little bit, crisped super fast. When we had a good covering of bacon grease on the bottom, we took a couple of packages of stew meat, tossed them in flour, and threw those in. Stirred that around to make sure that we got a good sear in the bacon grease with the flour that simultaneously seared the beef and got some of the beef juices involved, but also made a roux with the flour on the beef and involving in the bacon grease. That got to the point where it was just about to burn, and I poured in a couple of cups of Burgundy. I have never smelled anything quite so good as that bacon and beef and Burgundy combination, just searing and boiling with the ferocity of a super hot fire in that cast iron Dutch oven. That boiled down to a thick sauce. We threw in about 3 cans of beef broth, 2 cans at that point in time, which brought it up to a good level. After which, carrots, cut up potato, baby carrots, cut up potatoes, a few leaves of basil, onion. Mixed it all in with a set of tongs. And mind you, all the mixing, all the stirring, everything that we did to actually work with the stuff, my hand is still a little cooked. My hand, I was wearing shorts, and when I get up next to, because we had the longest pair of tongs that Devin had in her kitchen, but when we get up close to it to actually do the mixing and whatnot, it was like walking into a damn fireplace, because we essentially were. And yeah, I got a little cooked. Totally worth it. Josh took a picture. We threw a lid on it, the lid on it. I am roasted at this point in time. I'm better. I've had a good year to get some recovery under my belt, and I've had good doctor's visits, but my back is still out. My right shoulder's never going to be the same. My neck's probably permanently damaged from laying on a couch with my head turned one direction for 6 months. But I was able to get this stew to that point. Took some of the other big potatoes that we'd gotten, wrapped them in foil, just threw them in the coals next to the pot, and went inside. One person would go outside every 15-20 minutes, usually Andrew. My son is a good scout and did not want to leave the fire unattended, and every so often he'd forget, and I would tell and go out and stir and check on things, see if the potatoes are fork tender yet. It took a ridiculously short amount of time. The heat was really high the entire time. We threw an extra bag of Kingston briquettes on top of the other coals when they'd gotten down to that level to keep the heat levels up and constant, and it worked. See if I can find a picture and throw it up. because this was the stew. I have had some ridiculous luck in my day. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for some ridiculous luck. And the kindness of strangers and the benefit of my friends. And for so many reasons, I have a lot to be grateful for. I beat cancer. I did not beat cancer alone. If it wasn't for the care and concern of my friends and the skill of my doctors and my family's unending prayer and devotion, I wouldn't be alive. I beat cancer. That is a victory. I'm still walking. That is a victory. I have a relatively good life after things I have been through. That is a victory. But that stew, after months of being unable to think about food and focusing strictly on one day making food like this, making food on that fire in that Dutch oven with those simple ingredients, just throwing them together and letting the heat do the work. Devin made biscuits. Pillsbury. He had a couple of rolls lying around, so she threw some in the oven. And I've had better meals, but not much. 2 hours. It cooked about 2 hours, and the beef was thoroughly cooked and tender, and the potatoes just fell apart in your mouth, as did the carrots. Everything else was just, the onions had vanished along with the basil into the sauce. We had to throw an extra can of beef broth in at the end because it might have cooked a little bit long. Nothing burned in a bad way. There was a little burnt bacon in there, and it didn't hurt it at all. That actually enhanced the flavor some. Every last drop of the damn stew was one of the best things I've ever made. And that is something that we're absolutely going to be doing again. Uncle Drac has some cooking shows to make. I did the one episode way back when, in the original Uncle Drac days, where I made the quick and easy chicken Kiev, and I still stand by that one. That's a good one. But yeah, Uncle Drac and the Warriors of Wednesday are going to have to produce some cooking segments again. And I'm probably... Well, I can't eat as much as I used to. I've gained a little over 20 pounds in the past year. I can live with that. I had to put muscle mass back on because I'd lost, of the 110 pounds that I've lost, a good portion of that was muscle mass. So I've put some back on, and I'm still working on that. I can't eat as much as I used to. I'm only now able to eat French fries again. My salivary glands haven't come back. I can produce, you produce two types of mucus, or saliva, in your mouth. There's a very thick, ropey kind that has most of the salivary amylase in it and whatnot. And then there's a thin, watery kind that allows everything to be lubricated and mixes with the other ones so you get the consistency that you used to. I don't make the thin, watery kind anymore. I only get the thick stuff that I choke on. I always have to have something to drink, especially when I'm eating, because I don't wet my food as I chew it like most folks do. Which is fine, small price to pay. So I'm not worried about starting all this cooking and suddenly putting on a huge amount of weight again, because I just don't have the stomach that I used to, and I think I can keep it that way, and I am happy with that. My relationship with food took a hit. we didn't have a divorce, but we called it quits for a little while. It's not food. It's not you. It's me. Um, I gotta walk away for a little while, but this isn't goodbye. This is just see you later. And Food and I got back together. It's not the relationship it was before. We still see each other every day, more or less. You know, we'll take a day off from time to time, me and Food. Um, and I think Food understands that sometimes I just need my own time. And sometimes it's just casual. Sometimes it's a little light. We don't have to spend all of our time all into each other. I can get by on a protein shake in the morning sometimes, and I'll have a couple of eggs now and then, and that's always fun. Sometimes it's between you and me. Sometimes it's pastrami fries on the Redondo Beach Pier late at night when I probably shouldn't be doing it, and I know it's bad. I know we're doing something naughty, but Food and I, we can go there. I think we're confident enough in our relationship that every so often, I do pastrami fries, waffle or a funnel cake every so often. Got to be careful. I'm an older man. I got my limits. But Food is still there. Thank you for following me along on this culinary journey. Journey through my illness and my recovery and my victory of Dutch oven open fire beef stew. Some people who follow me on Facebook and have seen my posting about the stew that I did earlier this week have started to throw me other recipes and other stuff. There's a Guinness coffee beef stew that is calling to me. And I want to do other Dutch oven recipes. I've come up with a couple, and Wednesday nights are going to get very fanciful and very interesting for a while. I'll try and chronicle those every so often. Not every time, but you'll hear about them. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have a particular victory after a recovery or a particular recipe of food that you really enjoy, leave me a comment or a recipe or something. You'll love leaving me a comment. I'll love getting one. If you would like to see these videos when they come out, please feel free to subscribe. If you do hit the subscribe button, also hit the little bell next to the subscribe button that shows you the notifications when my videos come out. If you really dug the video, I invite you to hit me up at my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thanks again. A little personal this time. We'll see how it goes next time. I shouldn't have to drink an entire cup of coffee to come up with the next one video, but you never know. Sometimes coffee's nice, especially when I can swallow it. I'm Scott Corum. This is What Does Matter to Me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.